Again, officially, good morning, everyone. I really want to thank you for joining Corporate College's webinar series, Live with the Experts. We look forward to providing you really relevant information and tools and topics that support you and really set you up for success. Adjusting to this new norm is really a daily occurrence now, shifting to a new reality of remote working and learning and living. Here at Tri-C, we are committed to serving you in this time of rapid change by providing actionable resources to help you and help your team succeed and thrive wherever you're located, whether still at the work site or working remotely. Our webinar series is one of Corporate College's newest resources to prepare the workforce to overcoming challenges and achieving both personal and business goals. The series is comprised of essentially 4 themes, with today's focusing on virtual leadership. You'll see other sessions focusing on better ways to work remotely or navigating a transition. And this afternoon at noon, we have one on personal health and well-being. All very important and relevant topics for today. And as many of you may have already known, Corporate College has a very distinguished and talented team of facilitators and subject matter experts. Today, I'm so pleased to introduce our presenter and facilitation specialist, Mike Wanqua. Mike, he knows firsthand how necessary it is to have effective and clear communication. He first trained and was mentored by John Maxwell, and he is now serving as an executive director of the John Maxwell team. So he's fully equipped with all the tools and resources and experience that's going to help you and your team improve your productivity, performance, and profitability. Mike put that information directly into practice during his 26 years with the Intel Corporation, where he served as a mentor and led various sales teams, marketing teams, and technical teams, and taught in their Intel University. Since then, Mike serves as a senior pastor and has also launched his own leadership and personal development practice. And we couldn't be more thrilled to have Mike as part of our Corporate College team. So with that, I am so pleased to introduce to you again, Mike Wanqua. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Good morning. I am well. How are you today?
Excellent, excellent. You know, Mike, your session on Everyone Communicates, Few Connect was so powerful. I've talked to a number of the attendees who participated, and boy, they're still even, engaged and asking more questions, and really took what you said to heart and have already started putting it into practice.
Great to hear. Great to hear. Any way we can add value. Great to hear.
Yep, so I'm really looking forward to your session right now, so thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. Then with that, let's get right to it. So the title of the session today is Be Anxious for Nothing. Reducing stress during turbulent times. And how many of you know we're in turbulent times right now? So let me offer this. Now, some of the things you will hear today, some will be new, some won't be new, some will be very applicable. Others you'll say, hey, I'm already doing that. So just listen and encourage your other colleagues on the line to just get what they need from it. So I want to offer this model, the ACT model, ACT. It's not new to me. I got it from Maxwell, from John Maxwell. So ACT, the A, adopt. Anything you hear that you say, ooh, that was good. I need to bring that in. I need to apply that in my life. So I want you to put an A beside it or write in your notes somewhere, A, adopt, apply. I need to use this. You will also hear something perhaps that you need to change. So you put a C in your notes. I was going down this path, but now I need to change and go down another path. So put a C there. And then T. T is I'm applying this, but I really want to reinforce it. So I need to teach it to someone else. Teach it. So adopt or apply, change or teach. So as you go through the presentation, just think about that. Well, I tell you, I am so excited to be with you today to talk about this Be Anxious for Nothing, reducing stress in turbulent times. I just want to share a few of my opening thoughts, and these are quotes from other people. John McDonald said, every problem introduces a person to himself. See, when everything is going well, you really don't know just how good you are. You know, if you can handle different situations. And when a problem comes along, a crisis, it really reveals who you are. And we'll talk more about that. But I like what Warren Lester says, success in life comes not from holding a good hand, but in playing a poor hand well. You've heard the saying before, when life throws you lemon, make lemonade. This is what he's talking about. And Virginia Satir, what she said, what Virginia Satir said is, life is not the way it's supposed to be, it's the way it is. The way you cope with it is what makes the difference. In other words, it is what it is. Now what? Right? The choices we make and how we cope with whatever has been handed to us, this is what makes the difference. And then lastly, former President Harry S. Truman, who talked about the difference between a pessimist and an optimist. The pessimist may have opportunities, but they make it so difficult. Whereas the optimist, even in life uncertainties and difficulties, that optimist, she can spot the opportunities even in that situation, those situations. So a few opening thoughts to get us going. Now, we need to realize that there will be turbulence. And I think we can embrace the fact that turbulence is here. So I have 5 things for us that would help us to get used to dealing with turbulence, dealing with anxiety, dealing with crises, etc. First of all, we need to expect it. Secondly, we acknowledge it when it comes. Thirdly, we deal with it by addressing it. And then, of course, we want to overcome it. But after we've overcome it, that's not the end. We need to really learn from it so that we'll be better the next time. So let's jump right into this. Expect it. Expect it. Now, along the way, if I'm moving too fast, you can tell me to slow down. If I'm going too slow, you can encourage me to speed up using the chat. If you have questions along the way, Geraldine will stop me every now and again, but I'll make sure I leave some time in the end. Now, expect it. In this world, you will have tribulation. You and I will have trouble. We will be anxious about things. When it rains, rain is not discriminatory. Rain does not discriminate. It rains on whoever's standing out in the open. It doesn't matter if you're good or bad, if you're rich or poor, if you're brilliant or uneducated, the rain comes on all of us. I like what William Penn said, and rather than read it all to you, I'll use the condensed version, which is no pain, no gain, no guts, no glory. So we expect trouble to come. At times, as you can see, we're on top of the Bronco. And then at other times, the Bronco is winning. So we expect trouble because trouble does come. But I don't want to spend a lot of time here because in this crisis is already here. So what do we do about it? Well, we acknowledge it. Now, this came from the CDC, the common signs of distress. But my message to you and to me is this pandemic is real. We can't make it go away by thinking it away. There are some things we have to do, but realize it's here, it's real, and the world is changing, and dare I say, it's already changed. And as a result, you and I must change. We look at 9/11. The world changed after that. The United States changed, especially after that. And we had to adapt. We had to change as well. So as we acknowledge that this pandemic is here, especially, we need to look at common signs of distress. And here's what the CDC says. Now, of course, we will feel some of it, but what they're talking about, a prolonged state of feelings of shock or numbness or disbelief, change in your energy or your activity level, or you're having trouble concentrating. You know, I felt quite a few of these things when the pandemic got here and I knew it was here to be here for a while. When 9/11 hit, I went through these. But over time, getting help, going to my source of strength, I was able to overcome it. Some of us can look within and get help. Others of us need to contact the experts. Right? If we're still having sleeping problems or nightmares, if we have this prolonged anxiety or headaches or body pains or we're already had health problems and then they're getting a lot worse. If we're turning to outside sources such as alcohol or drugs or such, then the CDC is recommending to us, and I recommend to us as well, that we seek help. Seek help from your healthcare provider. If you don't have that, then there are other places that I'll talk about in a moment. But what they're suggesting is we acknowledge that the pandemic is real, but we also have to acknowledge if we have stress and lots of it unmanageable. And if we do, we need to get the help. And again, I give you some contact information in a moment. So first of all, we expect that problems will come. We acknowledge it when it gets here, and then we have to address it. And how do we address it? Well, we let our emotions subside before we decide. I'm not speaking from theory only. Sadly, my family, we lost our mother less than 3 weeks ago. And there are lots of things we need to do with the household, the estate, and we are taking a pause because we need to go through the grieving process and deal with us internally before we can make those major decisions. And my wife reminds me of this quite often. If I ever get too, ready to go, men can be impatient, got to get it done. But with this, we have to let our emotions subside before we decide on major life choices. But we have to address it. After we calm down, we let our heart and our head catch up to each other and find some type of equilibrium. Then we can start making decisions. As we address whatever we're going through, let me suggest this to us. We'll talk about what's on the left side of the screen in a moment, steps to take care of yourself. That's very important. But I want you to understand the chart that's in front of you, or the picture that's in front of you. This 3 phases of change, of transition, of transformation. The Bridges are a husband and wife doctor team. They're both are doctors. And they talked about these are the transitions we go through when we have to move from where we are to where we're going to be. And oftentimes the change is thrust upon us. And when we do that, when that is happening, as I said earlier, the world has changed, so must we. We first understand that we're in shock. We have some fear. We're probably angry about this thing because it's outside of our control. We want to blame someone. We're trying to resist what's happening. We may be skeptical and resent what's going on. And that's that first phase, that ending, that losing, that letting go of life the way it was and trying to embrace this new life, the letting go of old normal and embracing the new normal. And some of us are still in that red phase. Others of us are in the neutral zone where we are experiencing some confusion and uncertainty because I'm holding on to the old normal, but I'm trying to embrace the new normal, but the new normal hasn't been fully defined yet. So I'm in this state of trying to transition, but I'm between two states. That's the neutral zone. It's okay to be there. And then there are others that are embracing the new beginning. Excuse me, where they are trying to integrate into this new normal. Like my family, whenever we must go out, we have on the mask and the gloves. We're taking care to make sure we're protecting ourselves and we're getting used to that. This is the new normal. 2 weeks ago, I was in the grocery store and everything was, lined up properly. And almost everyone in there had on masks. Quite a few had on gloves. There was one person that came through without a mask on. He came flying through there to get whatever he needs to get and to leave. And I thought it was interesting that he looked out of place rather than us with mask on. Why? Because we're adjusting to a new normal. And understand it's okay. We go through these transitions. Some of us are still in the red, others are in that neutral zone, and even some of us are beginning to embrace the green. But while we're going through this, no matter which zone you're in, make sure you take care of yourself. Here are some steps, again, recommended by the CDC, their Substance Abuse Mental Health Support Agency. Try to eat healthy. Try to reduce the amount of time you're snacking on candy bars or whatever it is. Exercise regularly, even if it's walking around the house or walking around the yard, some type of movement. And I can't stress this enough. Get your sleep, get your rest. Your body needs a chance to heal, to re-energize, to renew. So if you can, get your rest. And then
That's
connect with folks. I'm very fortunate in that I have a support system. As I shared with you with the loss of my mother, I was able to tap into various people who are part of my support system. And when they need help, they call me. So it's a good time to communicate and connect with those friends. And I work a lot. This is helpful for me doing what I'm doing now, but I know I must take breaks to re-energize. I like what Stephen Covey said when he talked about the 7 habits of highly effective people. And the seventh habit is sharpen the saw, right? Taking a break from all that you've done to recharge. So try to return to activities, safe activities that you can do that brings you energy, that brings you relaxation. With everything that we're going through, we need to be able to smile sometime. And then stay informed. Stay informed. Watch the news. Know what's going on. But get this, don't watch too much of it. We make it a practice in my household that we will not watch the news before going to bed. We don't want all of that racing in our head when we're trying to relax. We want to enter into REM sleep. So, yeah, watch the news, find out what's going on, but please don't watch too much of it. And then, lastly, seek the help. It's okay. Seek help. I reached out. Others have reached out to me as they went through what they went through, and as some are going through what they're going through. Reach out. And if you don't have the person, a good friend that you can call, or even if you do, every now and again, we need more than that. It's okay to reach out to clergy if you're in a faith-based institution or organization, I should say. Reach out to a counselor or a doctor. And if not, on the screen, there's a number here, an 800 number, 9855990. Or you can even text the number on your screen. You have the presentation. There are places here where you can reach out. Okay.
Mike,
Yes.
can I interrupt you for a moment? Because that is so powerful and so important that you're sharing that information. I know there's people who are, you're helping right now at the moment. But, I hear this question often from many people, and Alvin brought it up just on the chat right now. And I find this a lot of people are struggling. So he wants to know what's the process or way of correctly defining where you need to be? And that's a tough question.
Where you need to be. I'm going to give some suggestions on some things that we can do to help define where we need to be. So hold on to that question just for a few more minutes, Alvin. And as we go through it, if you feel as though I have not answered it, ask it again, and I'll be much more direct with the answer. But I'm going to talk about that when I get to the overcome it stage. Thank you for that question. Okay, so we expect trouble, it comes. We acknowledge it when it's here and we address it. But where I want to spend the bulk of our time is in the overcome it stage, the overcome it. Now, there's about 4 slides on this, so please bear with me, the overcome it stage. All right. First of all, and by the way, this comes from Stephen Covey. I read a lot, I pull from various sources. A lot of this comes from books that I read, being a part of the John Maxwell team, ex-military, having served the country, serving as a senior pastor, various degrees, don't need to talk about that, and working in corporate America and being very involved in the community. So I bring to you various perspectives when I share this. And what I try to do is what I learned in the military. We lead by example, which means that if I don't do this or it doesn't resonate with me, I will not share it with you. So I try to bring things to you that's more than just theory, but things that I put in practice. So now, what Stephen Covey talks about is to overcome it, my words, to overcome it, his words, be proactive, be proactive. And what does that mean? Well, the opposite of proactive is reactive. And what Stephen talks about is, if you look at the left top of your screen, the proactive model is that stimulus from the outside will come in. The active person is driven by whatever is happening externally. Whatever the stimulus is, they react to it. But a proactive person, I want to encourage all of us to try to become more proactive. The proactive person understands that he or she has the freedom to choose, the freedom to respond. So outside stimulus comes in. We have the freedom to choose. We are self-aware creatures. We have an independent will. We have a conscience. We can even think about what we're thinking about. And if we don't like what we're thinking about, we can stop thinking what we're thinking about and replace it with something else. Try saying that 5 times fast. We have imagination, which means that we can be very creative, like Viktor Frankl did. And I'll talk about his imagination in a moment. But the main point is a proactive person says, no matter what is happening on the outside, no matter what comes to me, I can choose how I respond. Now look at the language between a reactive person and a proactive person. The table on the bottom left. The reactive person says, there's nothing I can do. Whereas a proactive person says, well, let's look at our alternatives. There is something we can do. We can respond in a number of ways. Let's find out what's the best way to respond. The reactive person says, look, that's just the way I am. I can't change. But the proactive person realizes, yes, I can change. I can choose a different approach. If that's not working, I can do something different. Look, one of the favorite games that I like is, and I hope I pronounce it right, Sudoku. One of you know how to pronounce it, but it's that math game where you have to have 9 in a row vertically, 9 in a row horizontally, and 9 in a row in each of the cubes, each of the squares. And the number, you have to use a lot of logic and a lot of creativity. And I have a book with 200 of those, from easy to very challenging. And there was one that I worked on for 2 months, one puzzle, 2 months it took me. But I knew I would keep going back and saying, I would have an aha moment at some point and be able to figure this out. Now, there are some I could do in 10 minutes. Others, it may have taken me when I say months, I go and I go through it for maybe half an hour, and then I put it down and come back for another half an hour. It's fun for me, it's challenging, and it forces me to be creative and to think differently. So I can choose a different approach. When the approach I chose didn't work, I choose a different approach. And that helps me in life as I'm dealing with this outside world and things coming in. It helps me to know there is a solution out there. It may take me a while, but the solution exists. What about this one, the reactive person? Oh, he makes me so mad. Well, I'm in control of my emotion. I can choose to get angry, or I can choose not to be. The proactive person, the proactive language, right? I have to do that. I must do it. Well, I would choose an appropriate response. I can't. I choose. I must. I prefer. If only I will. So look at the language in the table between the reactive person, the reactive language, and the proactive person using a proactive type of a language. And I want to encourage us, think about how you're speaking and try to shift to the right side. Why is that important? Because the reactive person and the proactive person both have a circle of concern and a circle of influence. The circle of concern is usually the things that we are all anxious about and probably cannot control, whereas the circle of influence are things that are within our control, or at least we have a lot of influence over it. The reactive person is the one on the right side, upper right. And you see the blue that's squeezing the white. The concern is growing because they're worried about everything out there. And then because they worry so much, their influence level continues to decrease. Whereas the proactive person who realizes I can't do a whole lot about what's out there, but I can do a lot about me and what I can control. And as they focus on those things that they can influence or control, that circle, the inner circle, expands and pushes the concerns further to the edges. See, the positive energy of a proactive person allows their circle to expand, whereas the negative energy of the reactive person forces their circle of influence to contract. Viktor Frankl, many of you may be familiar with him. For those who are not, he was in a concentration camp. And his family was too. He lost most of his family except for one person. And he was very concerned about his own life. He found that even though he was in bondage, he was in lockdown, he was not free to move, he discovered that even though they could put the body in bondage, they couldn't put his mind in bondage. They couldn't put his consciousness, his imagination in bondage. And he said everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. So he chose that he would survive. He chose that he would think about how life would be like when he left that place. He chose to have a positive attitude. He chose to embrace the freedom that he had in his mind. And his attitude changed. He became so much of a positive person that others in the camp became encouraged. Even the guards that guarded him wanted to be in his presence because he understood he couldn't control what was happening on the outside, but he could control what was happening on the inside. The epitome of a proactive person. Now let's go on in this notion of overcoming. We began with the end in mind, and hopefully, Alvin, I will answer your question at this particular point. We all have a center, we all have a core, and whatever's in our core drives our behavior. See, a lot of us, we have this core that's driving our sense of security, and our security really talks about who we are. Right? Am I secure with who I am? The guidance, it gives us a sense of direction, which way we're going to go. The wisdom gives us that the ability to discern, to make good decisions, and the power enables us to act. So all of this security and guidance with wisdom coming in that gives us the fuel to act are all driven by our core, whatever is inside of us. What's our center? And our center, once we really discover our center, it should help us to understand whatever our personal mission statement is. A lot of the clients that I consult with, as I talk about leadership, we talk about the organization's mission statement, but I like to ask each leader, what's your personal mission statement? See, we find if their personal mission statement is not aligned with the organizational mission statement, we oftentimes find a mismatch, especially if the values of the organization and the values of the individuals are not in alignment, we find a mismatch. And as I'm talking about values, talking about different principles, if our center is not changed less, it's hard for us as an individual to deal with change. Because with change, there's a loss of turmoil. It's like a whirlwind taking place. So we need a firm foundation to hold on to. So when all this change is taking place, we can deal with it. The proactive person has a core, a center that they go to that helps them to stand on solid ground when all of this change is taking place. Now, as you look on the right side, you see principles in the middle, and you see all of these different things that some people may have as a center. Like if money or work is your center and your life revolves around your work or your money, what happens when there's an economic collapse? Now your balance is off because your center has been threatened. Why? Because that center was an outside stimulus. Even if your friends or your center, I have to be on Facebook, I got to get a lot of likes. But if those friends go away or you get dislikes or people unfriend you, does that destroy who you are? It could, if that's your center. Believe it or not, some people have enemies as their center. You talk to them, they're always talking about that person. Oh, can you believe what that person did? This person did this time. And that has become their center. There are those that are trying to keep up with the Joneses, and the Joneses don't even care about them, but they're trying to keep up. They got to have the best possession, take the biggest trips, and that's their center. But when they're unable to do that anymore, does their sense of identity, their security go down? And even having your family or your spouse as your center, which on the surface seems like a good thing. I love my wife. I'm crazy about my family. But what happens if the family dynamics change? Does that destroy who you are and get you out of balance? If you're dependent on you yourself, it's all about me. All I do is make withdrawals. I never make deposits into anyone else. I want everyone to connect with me, but I'm not trying to connect with anybody else because it's all about me. And what happens when you wake up and find out it's really not all about you? And even the church, if you're making the church the center, you got to get to the building because it's all about the church. What happened when the church is closed? So what Stephen Covey argues, and I support, is that our center has to be based on timeless values, on principles that do not change. And when we have principles and values that do not change, now when we're dealing with all of this change on the outside, we can deal with it a bit better because what's on the inside is not changing. And that's work, and your homework assignment is to really spend time reflecting to try to discover your personal values, your core, your true north, what will hold you when things all around you is changing. And it will help you in these anxious. What's your personal mission statement? Okay, I'll be vulnerable and transparent. I will share mine. My center is based on the acronym LIFE. Life, love, integrity, faith, which includes my family, and empowerment. And that empowerment includes several things: education, helping others, and my personal mission statement, bringing out the best in others. So that's what drives me. In my consulting business, a lot of my clients now, we're not meeting face to face. We had to go to online. The training that I do, we're not meeting face to face, just like you're getting now, the virtual training. But because my core is part of it is empowerment, then it allows me to just empower in a different method. So even though things change on the outside, because the core remains the same, we just find a different way to deliver what I need to deliver. So, Sandra, my core for me is the acronym LIFE. Life. Love is what I'm doing based on love. That's first. Integrity. I will not do anything to violate my integrity, who I am, because character is everything. When we talk about leadership, we talk about character, integrity. That's number one in leadership. That's the foundation. Number three for me is my faith. Will I do anything to violate my faith? The answer is no. And then and all of this includes my family. And E is empowerment. My job, my role in life, part of my personal mission statement is to empower others, to enable others, to help educate others. So that's it for me. And I want to ask you to do the homework, all of you, to look within to discover your core values, because that is what will help you to deal with no matter what's going on the outside, whatever is going on that affects us in our homes. When we have our core values that we can stand firm upon, that will allow us to deal with whatever may come our way. All right, overcome it, overcome it. This is where I want to spend the bulk of the time. Another overcome it is put first things first. And Alvin, this may help too, right? I love what Goethe said. He said, things which matters most must never be at the mercy of things which matters least. Look, while we're on this lockdown, and I know the economy is about to reopen for some of us, I'm staying in, but that's my personal choice. But while we're going through this, we have lots of different things we need to do. And we could get trapped working on a lot of trivial things. And what Covey reminds us to do is make sure we're working on the most important things. On the left, we have a chart. We have a tape. On the left side is the urgent things that must be done in quadrants 1 and 3. On the right side are the not urgent things, the quadrants 2 and 4. And at the top, we have the important things. At the bottom, the not important things. Now, which things do we need to work on, right? The things at the top. Some of the non-important things, those things that are not important in quadrants 3 and 4, we can just push down. And if we have time after we've dealt with quadrants 1 and 2, then we deal with 3 and 4. And I want to suggest that maybe we don't deal with 4 at all, right? It's not important, it's not urgent. This is 4, if you can see the mouse on the screen. Not important, not urgent. Now, some things that are important, urgent, dealing with a crises, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects. But the things that are not urgent but very important, and actually this is where we want to spend the bulk of our time over here in quadrant 2, because when we don't do what we need to do in quadrant 2, quite often these start to slip into quadrant 1. Now it's become a crisis or it's urgent and we have to get to it. And I like what Brian Tracy uses, his model. If you ever read the book Eat the Frog, it's about eliminating procrastination, getting things done. Brian Tracy, Eat the Frog. And he uses this model, A, B, C, D, and E. A are the most important things that you must get done, and you must get them done now. So the A will go over into quadrant 1. It is urgent and it's important. Got to get it done. And you always work on A activities before any other activity. Your B are those things that are very important, but they're not urgent, but you know you need to do them and you need to do them before they become urgent. So we knock out the A's, do all of the A's first, and then we do the B's. That's where we want to spend the bulk of our time. Now, that's A, that's B. The C are those items that are nice to do, but if we don't get them done, it's all right. It's okay, because they're not important. They could be urgent, but they're just nice to do if we can get them done. These are the items that we need to delegate. Just go ahead and say, okay, these need to get done, but they don't need to get done by me. Maybe somebody else can do that. And then the E are the things that are just time wasters, and we need to eliminate those. That's the E. Just get rid of them. Going back to Goethe, what he said, things which matters most must never be at the mercy of things which matters least. So let's make sure that we're focused. Use this ABCDE system. Think about the time matrix, time management matrix that's on your screen too. And then look at all of your activities and mark them A, B, C, D, E. And make sure you're prioritizing, and that will help you to focus on the things you need to focus on. And once you've discovered your personal mission statement, that becomes your constitution. Just like this country, we have a U.S. Constitution. When the president comes into office, he says, I will defend the Constitution, because that is the country's values, the country's principles, what governs us. And your personal mission statement should be similar to the U.S. Constitution, but it becomes your personal constitution. And if anything violates your constitution, because your constitution, your personal mission statement, is built upon timeless values and principles, then that will help you make decisions about what it is you ought to be doing at this particular time. And using this system I just shared. One more over comment. I want to make sure I leave time for questions, is this one. This is a briefing that came from MD Anderson out in Houston, Texas. I have a good friend that works there. He does a lot of training as well, and he shared this with me. And he gave me permission to share it, as long as I let you know where it came. And it really talked about, during this crisis, who do you want to be? And it talked about those in the fear zone, the learning zone, and the growth zone. We all want to get to the growth zone, or we should. But understand that initially we may be in the fear zone, and we want to move from that zone as quickly as possible. You know, the fear zone, and a lot of us were there, especially when this pandemic hit. We're out buying tissue and Lysol and hand sanitizer, just stocking up on it. I went over to BJ's and I looked, in the tissue aisle was bare. People were hoarding things. They were fearful, they were concerned, and I understand that. But then we want to try to transition to this learning zone where I start to give up what I can't control. I stop compulsively consuming what hurts me, from the food to the news, right? I identify my emotions. In other words, I start to become more self-aware. And look at the bottom here. I recognize that we are all trying to do our best. I don't seek to blame others. The fear zone, the learning zone, we really want to get to this growth zone where we're asking, well, what can I learn from this? What's going on? What have I learned about myself? I start to think of others, and I look for ways that I can help them. I make my talents available to those who need them. Right? My gift is teaching, or at least I like to think that's my gift. So during this time, I need to teach, whether for fee or for free. I need to teach. There are others can use what I've been gifted with. There are others that can use what you've been gifted with. All of us in this thing together, how can we all help society move forward in a good way? I live in the present and focus on the future. I can't get trapped by the past the way things used to be because we're going to a new normal. So I deal with the situation as it is now, and then I look to the future to determine how can I make a difference. I'm empathetic with myself and with others. I thank and appreciate others. I keep a happy emotional state and I spread hope. It's enough negative news. They don't need to hear from me too. So how can I instill and spread hope? I look for a way to adapt to new changes, and this is very important. This is the proactive person, looking for ways to adapt, looking for ways to get from where I am to where I need to be. Remember, I put up that chart that talked about the red, that neutral color, and then the green, moving from one phase to the other. In this growth zone, we're trying to get to that green phase. And I practice quietude, patience, relationships, and creativity. You know, the math game I play allows me to use the right side of my brain. I love living in the left side, and that game calls for some left side too, but it forces me to use both sides of my brain, that creativity. Also spend time in meditation, spend time reflecting, asking myself, what have I learned today? How did I contribute to good today? So my question to you is, as we deal with this notion of overcoming it, what is your source of strength? I share with you mine, my personal values, life, love, integrity, faith and family, and empowerment. What is your source of strength? Think about it. And I love this caption. And I just had to find a place to put it, and I think it applies so well here. Stress is desserts spelled backwards. So how do we take the anxiety, the things we're going through, and turn it into something positive? How can we make lemonade from the lemons? How can we make desserts from being stressed? Well, I hope these thoughts that I've shared about overcoming has helped. But lastly, let's make sure we learn from it. We want to score an A plus. Remember, I told you about the rain that's coming. Sunshine will come and rain will come. Ups will come, downs will come. So we expect it, it comes. But how can we learn from whatever it is we're going through? Somebody said experience is the best teacher. I don't believe that. I believe evaluated experience is the best teacher because if you go through it and don't learn anything from it, then it's a wasted experience. And we don't want to waste this crisis. We want to learn from it. And even if we don't learn from it and what to do with it, maybe we can learn how we respond, how we deal with things, how we can become better. Maxwell said facing difficulties is inevitable. Learning from them is optional. Let's learn from whatever it is we're going through. Henry Arnold said the wise man questions himself, but the fool questions others. In other words, what he is saying is rather than asking, well, why did he make that decision? Why did she do this? Can you believe what they are doing? Start looking inside. We can't control what they are doing, but we can influence what we are doing. We can hopefully learn to control what goes on inside of here. The noted psychiatrist Carl Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. We're dealing with this crisis. It's really talking about taking a deep look inside. Philip Yancey, faith is trusting in advance what will only make sense in reverse. Let me share the last slide with you. Final thoughts, just two quotes, And I need for you to connect these quotes to understand the relationship between the two. Reinhold said, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. There's some things on the outside that I can't change. I get that. Help me to have peace about that, the serenity to accept that. And then give me the courage to change the things that I can change. There are some things going on. I need the strength. I need the courage to change them. But get this. I need to know the wisdom to know the difference. I need wisdom to know the difference between things I can't change and things that I cannot change, and then help me to work on the things that I can change. But I really believe this, or else I wouldn't have written it. I really believe that effective change will not happen on the outside until personal transformation takes place on the inside. In other words, when personal transformation takes place on the inside, you'll find that your circle of influence expands. And as that expands, you'll find that some of the changes that you thought you couldn't make on the outside, you'll find that you can make it. Just a little difference that may gather momentum and become a bigger difference. But for the change to happen on the outside, we must start with transformation on the inside. Well, let me end there and turn it over to Geraldine for some words before we open up for questions.
Perfect. So it's very, very, always very timely, Mike. And, I think it, just for myself personally, kind of reflecting back on, where am I at in all of these areas that you mentioned today? And I know for me, like the portion on addressing the situation was really, really impactful, and remembering to take care of yourself, because it's so easy to neglect that right now and not even realize how all the stresses and all the changes and everything impacting myself, impacting each person. So, impacting you physically and emotionally and mentally. So, that was super, super helpful for me personally. I know there was a couple of follow-up questions. One was, and Mike, when you were talking, about being proactive versus reactive, the follow-up question was, might understanding the difference between proactive behavior versus reactive behavior be useful in our interacting with people that we meet or work with?
Absolutely. Great question. And the answer is a resounding yes. Yes. We find sometimes when we're trying to connect with someone else that a reactive person, of course, we're reading body language, and there may be something going on in that person that's going on with them. And the timing may be off where we're trying to connect with them and they are not ready. And then a reactive person will take that communication as they don't like me, something is wrong with them, and now they have an attitude against that particular person. Whereas a proactive person will say, and by the way, it may be true, maybe they don't like you. But the proactive person understands that, hey, my core is filled with love, or whatever it is. Maybe my core is respect. I am going to respect their decision not to like me, and that's okay. But if we have to work together because my core is respect, even though they don't like me, I'm going to treat them with dignity and do what we need to do to make sure we can work together because my core is based on respect. But the reactive person goes, if that person is not treating me the way I think I need to be treated, then I'm going to treat them bad too. I am going to give them what they are giving me. So you're absolutely right. This whole notion of reactive and reactivity and proactivity makes a profound impact in our communication and working with others. Yes, to your question.
Great, great. And Mike, I think this actually kind of goes back to one of your most recent slides here, the overcome it, where you had the kind of circles, concentric circles there, and talking about from the fear zone to the growth zone. At least this question from Irene, I think, kind of relates to that, especially now working during this COVID period. Her question is, managers looking to keep teams motivated have stated, welcome the distraction of work or other false motivation statements. How do you share your acknowledgement with that manager that you understand the need for productivity, but not everyone is ready to embrace that new beginning phase?
Yes, very good question. And I brought up the chart you mentioned, but I think a better chart would be this one. And here's where managers need additional help from my perspective. Understanding that people are in different phases of their life as they are learning to address and deal with and overcome this pandemic. There are some that are still in the red, and a very good manager will and by the way, it's okay when you have this presentation to share this particular slide with your manager after you've done some self-reflection to find out where you are. But it would be good for managers to know, and for all the managers on the call, let me suggest that your people may be in different phases. And some may leave the red, go into the neutral zone, and something happens that kicks them back into the red. A very good manager, let me use my term, a very good leader understands that you can't lead everyone the same way. You lead everyone equally, but what motivates one person does not motivate the other person. And we have to lead people individually. So if I were that leader or that manager, and after I spend time with my person, I would understand or try to understand where are they in this continuum. If they're in the red, I know I need to give them more time. I need to encourage them, or I may need to redefine their job or move them to a different place. Those in the green, I may be able to give them a bit more work to carry the team, but everyone's in a different phase, and to think we can go back to business as usual, I don't think is very healthy. Now, don't get me wrong, we need to get there. We need folks to produce when it's time, but we just need to meet people where they are. And that's the short version. There's a much longer answer than that, but I'm trying to compress it into the time we have.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mike. And like so many others, on the session today, so many have expressed their sympathies for your loss, Mike, with your mom. So Jan is one of those, and she also had another question, very similar, but more personally related. So she asked, many reactive and proactive persons are within her circle, and she wants to know, how can I further proactive values to family during this pandemic?
We asked that last question again.
Sure. Yeah. So she just has a lot of people on both sides, both proactive and reactive. And she's looking and focusing in on her family and wanted to know how she could further those proactive values within her family during this time.
Got it. Thank you. Well, first thing I would say is we can't change others. So let me be very clear about that. We can't change others, but we can empower and educate others. And part of it is this notion of self-awareness. In another class we teach 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. We talk about the law of self-awareness. So for a person to grow from where they are to where they want to be, they have to be self-aware of where they are. They need to understand their starting point and understand where they want to go, and then we can build a bridge or strategies to get there. But it's difficult to get someone to move to where you think they should be if they don't fully understand where they are. So what I would say to Jan is that you role model the behavior that you would like to see in others. You role model it, you demonstrate it. My wife's mother used to always say, I can show you better than I can tell you. So in this particular case, you have to become the change you want to see in others, realizing you can't change others, but perhaps you can be an inspiration for them to want to change. Your positive attitude can become very contagious, and proactive people have a very positive attitude. What else do you have for me, Geraldine?
Well, that was a perfect answer, Mike. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, but we're out of time. And so I know we could talk for a long time, and I know there's probably many more questions, but hopefully the people who had joined today will be able to join your session. You're gracious enough to have another session tomorrow morning, leading others through adversity, what to do when the storms are raging. Another very relevant topic, and we just can't thank you enough, Mike. And I know everybody here on the call is expressing their appreciation as well too for being here today. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Really appreciate the time together.
Absolutely. And we just ask everyone who's on to remember, corporate college is here to serve you with essential learning to overcome the challenges you're facing right now. And we offer this in so many other different ways other than the webinar. We also have live virtual classroom training as well as self-paced online programs. And you can tell by the great talent like Mike has that we have a great team of subject matter experts that we work with to really provide you and your organization, consultation services, training, and coaching. So when you visit the Corporate College website, please take a look at all of our learning available in our classroom format, virtual, and ranging everything from frontline leadership certificate program to our Lean Six Sigma and many others. So feel free to rewatch Mike's session this morning and share the presentation by visiting our Corporate College free webinar series page in the next few days and then clicking on the free webinar series link. And you can always stay up to date with us too by following us on social media. So with that, thank you again for joining us today, and everyone stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.